Gatsby and retweet it. Okay. I think we've got ourselves a live stream. Um, so this is cool. This is exciting. I'm happy to have you on today. Um, so do you maybe just want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that good stuff? Ooh, wait, hold up one quick second. It looks like my sound is not working. So let me fix this real quick. Output streaming with desktop audio. Can you give me a quick mic check?
Yeah, sure. Can you
All
hear me
right.
now?
Yes. All right. We've got audio now. So please, let's start that all over again. So, Espen, thanks for being on today. Do you want to
Sure.
give us a quick overview of kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Espen, and I work as a developer at Sanity IO. I've been here for about 2 or 3 years, and yeah, we make sort of a hosted API and backend store for structured content, and then we make a headless collaborative CMS that connects to that, so you can edit all the content that you put into our API. So yeah, it's been pretty fun. We launched about a year ago, or more, quite just about over a year ago in November, and yeah, we just launched our new Gatsby source plugin. So we're just getting into sort of hooking everything up and trying to get everything working into the Gatsby ecosystem.
And that's what we're going to play with today. So, our goal today is Espen is going to teach me how to build a site using Sanity's Gatsby plugin. The site we're going to build is a portfolio site. So it's going to be kind of an image of the project and a little bit of description about it. And we'll put that up on a page. And then we'll also create individual portfolio pages. So kind of here's a list of all my projects, and then here's an individual project list. And so this will be kind of a fun way to put it together because we get to take advantage of what sounds like. So I don't quite understand this yet because I've never used Sanity before. I'm actually going to sign up for my Sanity account as part of this live stream. So I'm very excited to learn how it works, and I guess the best way to do this would be to get started. So while I do this part, it's probably going to be a lot of watching npm install things. So let's get it rolling. And while this is installing, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what this is doing?
Sure. So what you just installed is the sort of the CLI package that allows you to interact with the Sanity project, set up new projects, and all that kind of good stuff. And once that was installed, it set up you're running Sanity init, which sets up a new Sanity project. And since you haven't signed in before, it'll ask you to create an account and accept our terms of service, of course. Once that's done, you can go back into the browser here and yeah, set up a new project. Just give it the sort of the essentials. What this is actually doing is setting up a project on your, like a JavaScript project on your laptop,
Okay.
which is actually running the CMS, so to say. We call it the
Okay.
content studio. So that differs from a lot of other headless CMSs in the way that we actually allow you to customize and set up everything on your laptop, and then you can build it to a static bundle of JavaScript and HTML and host that pretty much anywhere. But we also allow you to host that at Sanity's studio host as well.
And so, can you talk me through a little bit like these options here? So the project name I understand. The data
Yeah.
set, does that matter, or is that just something behind the scenes?
So dataset is sort of like a database, so you can have multiple databases. Sometimes you want different aspects of of a project, and sometimes you just want different environments for production, staging, and that kind of stuff.
Got it. So
So that's why we recommend production as like the first thing, just to get up and running.
cool, works for me.
Yeah.
And we today are going to make this world readable so people can try out the code.
hmm
Um,
So the visibility is actually useful if you make a if you make requests directly to our API, like just a single page application, then you can make course requests directly from your website into that. So that's a good setting for like most public websites. Whereas if you make a Gatsby site, it's pretty much up to you, because you can just enter a token in our source plugin and just expose the data that you actually want. So yeah.
and so this is going to, when I run this output path, it's going to take over the folder that I create, or like
Yeah.
it, so it'll take this over.
hmm
Would it make sense? Um, so I guess just kind of a practical question here. So if I'm going to build a Gatsby site in this folder, I probably
hmm
don't want to also have my Sanity code, or would you like? Is there a pattern that you recommend for this, like the back end and front end?
Well, it's sort of up to you. We've done a couple of like monorepo things, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the easiest way to do so to do it right now is just to separate the studio from the Gatsby frontend, just to make it more clear what actually runs where.
And this is it's you call it Sanity Studio.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna go with that. This is a for the
So
sake of
yeah,
learning. Let's go clean. Yeah.
I probably start with the blog schema, but just because
Okay.
it gives you a couple of like sample schemas to start from.
Okay.
Starting from a clean thing is kind of hard if you haven't done any Sanity projects before. We're
Okay.
gonna make that easier, but for now it's a kind of a clean slate. So you're sort of have to you're stuck reading the documentation for a while.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
So this will now actually run Yarn behind the scenes, or npm basically, to install the actual project dependencies. So as you'll see, once it's bootstrapped, it's just it has all the things that you're probably used to from other JavaScript and Node projects, like a package.json file
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of dependencies.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And
it'll also have a sanity JSON file, which is the sort of our main manifest file for defining which project ID and data sets and all that kind of good stuff that you want.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at or let's use this. All right. So here is our generated file. So we've got the name. License it to me. That's cool. Uh, sanity start, sanity check, and cool, cool stuff
Yeah.
going on here.
Yeah, these dependencies are sort of plugins to Sanity. So Sanity is built around this idea of being super customizable.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's our end goal. So everything is like all the different tools that you can use inside of Sanity are just plugins that you install. So it's pretty like extendable.
And so my goal here, like, I don't need to do anything, right? I just yarn start, and
Mhm.
we're good to go.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that should now start a. Oops. Oh, it doesn't have the same. Doesn't look like it
Oh, it's because
has.
so I should have.
Oh, you used npm instead of yarn. Yeah.
What is it?
Sanity
Sanity
slash
CLI.
CLI. Yeah.
So that's a question. One of the things that I usually do, just to avoid that problem, is I would install the CLI as a dependency, because that way
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be global, right? Like
Yeah.
then it would just work.
Yeah, you can do that. It's
Um,
just the initial sanity init command sort of needs it to be global at this point, just to
Gotcha.
be able to run that first thing. But you can
Hmm.
install the CLI locally if you want, just to be able to not have to do this.
Okay, let's do it one more time. Yarn start, and now we do have the sanity command.
hmm So this will actually set up a web server and starts compiling a bunch of stuff with Webpack, and then it should give you a URL that you can go to. Should be localhost 3333.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm going to re-up on coffee here real quick. So we've got the site up and running. This is great news. All right, so far so painless. I went off script by using my preferred yarn versus versus npm, but I think that's to be expected for a nerd like me. So cool, cool. So now I'm in the studio and I'm going to authenticate. I assume I want to authenticate the same way that I did. Okay.
Yeah. This is just to give you a session. That's why you have to log in again, because the previous session was for the CLI, and now you have to log into the actual project. So yeah.
Okay. And so if I
as you can see, this is like the different content types that are available with a default blog schema. You selected you selected one of the templates that doesn't have any data, so you're not actually seeing much at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You can start creating some new posts or whatever if you really want to.
Well, should we take a look at how the schema is defined so that we can play with setting up our portfolio, or I guess
you can just click new post just to see what the actual interface looks like.
Okay.
It's responsive, so now the panes collapsed to give you some more space. But, yeah. So once you actually start entering some data here, it'll start creating a draft for you to behind the scenes. Yeah.
Oh man.
So this is like a default blog post. Yeah.
Oh, and this will generate it for me. Cool.
Yeah, if you want. And author is like a reference, so you'll have to actually create an author first.
Gotcha.
In the content pane. But what we can do actually, feel free to upload some images.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess we can get started. Wow. And yeah, there's
this is slick. I like that. Wait, does this have a vignette feature?
What's up?
Is this the area of focus that I'm setting?
Yeah, we have sort of a plugin that allows you to. This actually just tells. It sets some metadata on the actual usage of that image, so that if you use this in the front end, you can give it a different portrait, square, landscape, panorama. You can just give it a width and height of what you actually want it to be, and it will try to fit everything within that.
That's so
the
cool.
The circle defines sort of the focus area,
and the crop.
outer,
so I can see
one
here.
Is the actual crop. Yeah.
Oh man, this is super cool. Okay. So let's see. We've got some questions about the quality of the stream. Maybe I'll just ask: is anybody having any trouble with the stream? If you could just post in the chat if you're having issues. We've got one complaint, a couple people saying it's okay. Sorry, Henri, I think it's you. So hopefully he's able to get that fixed, because it's always great to have Henri Helvetica in the chat. Okay, so this is awesome. I love that image editing feature. That's kind of making my day right now. The rest of this looks like stuff that we probably don't care about since we're building a portfolio, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
So I guess we can start editing the schema in order to fit your content model.
Yes.
So if you go into your editor now, there should be a folder called schemas, and within that, if you go to schema.js,
I'm gonna hide this so we can see it. Schema.js.
This is sort of the this is sort of the one that defines which content types are available. So as you can see, all our content types, schema types, are just JavaScript. So you can actually use JavaScript to generate the schema. which is kind of cool because it allows you to make pretty dynamic content structures without having to actually type everything out in JSON. And it also allows us to use different like schema builders. Some people prefer to use like the GraphQL notation for defining schemas, and some
Mm-hmm.
people prefer to just use JSON to define these. So in this case, we've imported a bunch of different content types, and
Okay.
then within the create schema function, we actually add those to the declared ones.
Or let's look at one of these. Let's look at post.
Yeah.
So this is uh, just a JSON object.
Yeah. So the first thing in the very top is just a name and a title and a type. And the type is it can be a string, or if it's like a top level type, it's usually a document. And a
Okay.
document is basically just an object, but it basically says that it lives as a document as you would think of it. If you inserted it into, say, MongoDB, you would have a document for like the main content types you have, right?
Okay.
So we
So
allow you to have different documents, and those documents can reference each other. So you can have like a blog post will be one document, and a author will be another, and they can refer to each other by actual like hardly enforced. That's not the right way of saying it. Strictly enforced references within the backend. So you can make sure that if some blog post references a author, some people won't, or you won't be able to delete that author if there's something that is using it, like a proper database would.
okay.
So yeah,
So if we want to create a new one, um,
yep.
let's maybe think through this. So the portfolio is going to be images, a title, description. Do we need additional schema, do you think, or do we just stick with like kind of atomic portfolio?
Well, I'd say like the main thing would be a project or a work. This is how I would think of it, like
Projects.
the items within a yeah, the items within a portfolio are projects. So
Okay.
project, yeah.
Let's do it. We've got a project, and I'm going to pull these side by side so that I can reference this. So I'm going to do an export default, and then you said the main things that I need are a name, a title, and a type.
Hmm.
So if I want to set, we'll do project, and this is a document.
Hmm.
Okay. So then it looks like in here we're defining all of the fields. And then is this just something that I just need to go to your docs to know what the available types are?
Yeah, we've got the most common ones are basically just the same as you would expect from JSON. Basically, it's like string and numbers and all that kind of good stuff. Uh, but yeah, there's a couple of more advanced ones like image and slug and filed, and yeah, a couple of other ones, and those are we'll have to go to the docs for those,
Okay. So
or I
let's
can walk you
think
through
on
them.
this here. We've got, we're going to need a title, an image, and a slug, and a description. So we can go with the title, probably set the slug in there, do an image, and a description. Are there any other fields? Should we set up a cross reference to like an author just to
Yeah,
yeah, let's do it.
that's already defined, so you can use
We'll use the
yeah,
existing author. Let's
yeah.
see. We'll just do this exactly as is. So an author, call it the author, and it is a reference, which means that we need to set it up like so. Okay.
Yeah.
And our image. Ooh, are there other options?
There are. Our image pipeline is actually quite extensive. So if you upload images, you can extract all sorts of metadata from the image. Things like exit information and palette information. It can generate like it generates a low quality image placeholder for you. So it inserts like a base64 version that's scaled to like 20 by 20 pixels into the actual like data model,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of nice because yeah, it hooks in really nicely with things like Gatsby image that actually can use that feature without having to pull down the image and then scale it on the client or
Cool.
during the build.
So
That's kind of
there's a
cool.
question in the chat about how to change the start port for Sanity Studio. Is there a flag for that?
Yeah, there's I think it's Sanity start dash dash port, or you can actually set it up in the Sanity JSON file.
Okay.
Can't quite remember what the. I think there's like um, a server section of the Sanity JSON file, which you can actually set it permanently for the studio. The
Cool.
only thing to keep in mind is that if you change the port number, you'll have to add a course entry, like a cross-origin resource entry, to allow it to talk to our API from that port number.
Okay.
You can do that using sanity course add and then http ://localhost port something.
Okay. Cool. All right. So now there's something going on here that I haven't seen yet. So we've got fields, and then we get down to preview. So can
So
you
this,
talk a little bit
yeah,
more about what this is?
yeah. So that's not like an optional thing. It basically allows you to for lists. It allows you to pick which fields should be used for the different places within that preview. So we do some optimizations to be able to load whole lot of documents within a list and only fetch the data that you actually need for showing that. So if you want to show like the year that a project has been published or was created, you could select those fields and then use the prepare function to if you really want if you want something very custom to actually format those to like a subtitle. So in this case, it's selecting the author and then saying like I want the subtitle to be by JSON or JSON, sorry. But it's totally optional. It will work out of the box just as it is, but it's a nice feature to be able to change the list views in order to make them more interactive.
Okay. So I think what would be fun. Let's get some data in, get some projects built, and then let's come
Yeah,
back to this. And because I think I know what you
yeah,
mean, but I think it'll be much easier if I can just see it.
yeah, yeah. It's much easier if we yeah have some data to play with.
Okay, so I've saved my project, and so
Mhm.
now I want to go to the schema, and I'm going to, let's see, do I still need block content, right? What do,
Yeah, for now, unless you remove the post type,
well,
which
I put
type.
I put this in to match up with
Oh, right. Yeah.
the
Well,
content
just to
over
make it
here.
simple, you could actually start by just making the description a text instead.
Text?
Block content is our way to represent rich text and be able to embed things like images and like structured links, not just as strings, but as references to other documents. And you can
Mm,
make all kinds of custom annotations and stuff. But it creates a JSON representation of that text, so it's a bit harder to get started with. So if you just want like a simple text without any formatting, you'll probably want to use just text,
okay,
which is just like a
let's,
presentation format for string, just a longer string basically.
okay, let's start here, and then
Yep.
depending on how far we get, if we have time, let's come back and play with this too, because that seems
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so we've got the schema. So I'm going to take these out, but we're going to keep the author. And so we want to import project from project. And then we'll come down here, swap this one out for project. And we'll get rid of this and this. Do I need to do anything else here?
No, that should be it.
Okay, so I'm going to
If you
save that.
just yeah, save it and then
And now, does this mean that it's done? Like it did the whole reload? I don't
yeah,
have to stop and start?
yeah, that's right.
That's
It
pretty
live
slick.
reloads when you change the schema. So as you can see, you now have
Oh,
a
it did it before I even did
project
anything.
and a yeah, it has a yeah.
All right,
You
so
can just
let's add a couple authors, and we'll just generate. Um, maybe I've got an image that we can use. Let's see. Perfect. Let's drop this on here. This is so cool. I can't get over how cool this is. Um, yeah, I love it. All right, I'm saving that. And then I don't think we're actually going to use this today, but let's do that. Publish. All good. All right. So then we can go back to a project, and here we go. All right, this is pretty slick. So we've got the title, we've got the slug, project screenshot, and the description. So these are all the pieces that we set up, and then we've got this link to assign me as the author. So let's go over here, and we'll just get a couple project screenshots. Let's do just this. And what else? Let's see. Shout out to Gant Laborde for this ridiculous site that we built together. It's a machine learning project where you can upload a photo of somebody and determine whether or not it is me or Kyle Shevlin. Which is one
so
of
what you
the.
can actually do here is to if you just copy it to clipboard, you can actually just paste it into the image field. You don't have to save it to a disk first.
Wait, for real? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So my screenshot is not set up to handle that, so I'm just gonna do
Oh,
it this
yeah.
way. Let's see. So let's drop one here. We'll do langsdorff.com.
And what's also important, or not important, but I think it's cool to note that this whole interface is real time. So if you have someone else, like if you publish this studio or deploy the studio somewhere, people can edit in real time. There's no locking. Everything is real time using like very fine grained patches. So
That is
that's quite unique as
super.
well.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that it would be so hard to demonstrate how cool that is just because we don't have. Do you have an instance where it would be possible to share that? Because that sounds.
Unfortunately, not right now.
Okay.
But I could probably like we could deploy the studio, and I could you could give me access to it, and I could log in and just so we can see that it works in real time.
Yeah. Okay. So let me finish. Just put that in. Got it hooked up to me. So let's publish. And now, if we look at projects, cool. All right. So we see that. So how do I publish this? Let's maybe just do that.
Yeah. So
I guess I'll
you
go back
basically
here.
just do like it's up to you if you want to deploy it somewhere else, but the easiest way is to just type sanity deploy.
Sanity deploy.
So we'll ask you for a host name, and that's on our .sanity.studio host.
Okay. Let's set it up as Gatsby.
Now it's building the same thing as you just saw, but in production mode. So it'll take a
Okay.
little while longer because it has to actually minify and gzip, or not gzip, but minify, and then it'll put that on our host, and it should be available. So while this is building, you could actually go to the if you go to the management console of Sanity, which is at manage.sanity.io, you can invite me to the project, and I will be able to collaborate with you.
Okay, so let me get logged in here. And
Yeah,
that's the one.
if Then team.
Team?
Yeah.
And who should
Which
I?
is espen@sanity.io.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, so this might be a good chance while you're accepting that to just kind of ask about your free tier. So it looks like here I'm signed in as a developer. Now, is this like a trial, or is this a like forever free kind of tier?
It's forever free. It's fairly generous, and
Mm-hmm.
it also allows you to, like, if you go over these quotas, you can add your credit card and it'll pay. You'll just pay for the overage, which is something that not everyone catches on their first read. So you don't
Yeah.
have to pay for the next plan, but yeah, you can just pay for the additional API requests or bandwidth or whatever you choose. So I'll get back to this when we talk about the Gatsby plugin. But if you're using the Gatsby plugin, you're using like extremely few API requests.
Yeah.
It's basically just 2 requests per build, and then whatever else is just bandwidth. So it should be
Very
good for
cool.
most Gatsby sites. It should just be pretty much free.
Awesome. Well, this is okay. So this is pretty slick.
Yeah.
So did you got set up?
Yeah, I got set up. I'm
All right.
in the studio now.
So
So
what would the
if you
easiest
go in,
thing to be? Like, do you
if you
want
go
to?
into the project
Okay.
and then scroll down to the description, maybe I can start.
Oh, this is amazing. And so now, if I'm in here and I start like, oh, but it does fight over cursor position.
Yeah, right now it does that.
Got it.
It uses a quite a like if we type in slightly different places, it should work fine. It uses what's it called, diff match patch, which
Oh,
is
okay.
a format by Google for applying text diffs.
Right.
So
So as long as you are editing a different line.
yeah, then it works pretty well.
Cool.
And it also works. This is a sort of a simple example. I can like replace your image if you
Mm-hmm.
want, but probably I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's kind of cool if you're doing the full rich text experience. Then you can
Yeah.
actually like collaborate on different paragraphs and insert like images and work on all kinds of structured content.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that's slightly more pleasing. We're
This
also
is.
working on, like, right now you can't actually see that I'm where my cursor is, so we're working on that feature right now. So
Got
it'll
it.
be there in not too long. Be like a presence feature, so your avatar will pop up over the field that's being edited.
I like that.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's see. Let me add one more. And we will drop in this one. And then maybe do you want to add one as well
yeah,
while we're doing this? Like create an author for yourself and
yeah. I'm doing that right now.
perfect. I can't not set this focus highlight. I love it so much. I feel like this is going to be my major takeaway for the day. Like this is my whole reason to use Sanity is so that I can choose the focus on my images.
Yeah. My avatar is not project screenshots. Okay.
Okay, let's find me. And look how cool that is. So in the background, without refreshing the page, now I can see your avatar as an author. Um,
Yeah.
that is real slick. Okay, and then if I click in
Yeah, we're
here,
pretty proud of the real time aspect. Is actually quite unique, and everything within the studio is really been built around that idea.
mm-hmm.
So you can make your own custom input components for more complex use cases, and uh, making those real time is actually quite simple. You can just basically just emit these small patches
Mm-hmm.
for that describes just the minimal thing that you actually want to change, and then behind the scenes that will just be sent to the server, and everyone will just reflect that as that state.
Yeah, this is great. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. We've got this set up. You've got your author selected. Um, should we add an image for this?
Yeah, I just let me take a screenshot of something or other.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be anything important, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Just check. Lots of love for Sanity in the chat right now.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like Newt is in there answering all the questions, which is much appreciated because it's hard to split the attention. Um,
Yeah, I haven't been able to keep up with the chat unfortunately. Okay, I've got a project screenshot up.
oh, that's so cool. I just like watched that upload in the background. Um,
Oh, that's good.
Man, this is an awesome tool. Okay, so now we've got data. We've got data. It's living on the internet. Um, Want to build a site with it?
Sure,
All right.
sounds like the logical next step.
Okay, so let's do this to start. We'll go over. I set up a portfolio, so I'm just gonna run a Gatsby new, and we'll use the default starter. So I'm just gonna instantiate it here.
Mhm.
And what this should give us, assuming all goes well, let's roll. Rebuilding Sharp is always my favorite part of building with Gatsby because it's always kind of like the wild card. You don't know if it's going to work today. Um, it's the joy of like bundling external binaries in your code. Let's
Is that part of the default starter, or
it's part of the
what is that?
image. It's part of image handling. So we use Sharp under the hood, which is built in. The hell is it built in? I can't remember, but we have to just like bundle it with. It's kind of like SAS, like it's a third party, like a different
Yeah,
language that gets
yeah.
bundled in, and then we use a node adapter for it, which is very cool.
hmm
But it also is.
So with Sanity, you can actually skip that because we support all the transformations on our image CDN.
Let's
So it's
let's play with that today because that sounds like fun.
yeah.
All right, so I got a site. We have a site. It is up and running. I'm actually going to stop it here, and we'll run it through the. Um, let's run it through this one instead. So I've got this, and we'll do the terminal stuff in here so that it's a little easier to see. So right now we've got a pretty general setup. We're using Helmet for SEO. We've got the file system set up so that we can source our images, plugins for image handling, and then some progressive web app stuff, the manifest, and an optional offline plugin. I'm not going to turn that on today because we just have to work around it in development anyways. So that's it. We got a pretty bare bones setup here. If I want to get started with Sanity, what's my first step?
You'll want to use the Gatsby source Sanity plugin.
So let's find this. We've got Gatsby Source Sanity. And these don't look like they're going to be problems for us in this call or on this meeting. So let's take this. And I'm going to yarn add Gatsby Source Sanity. And let's read about it while we go. So my options are my project ID. Now, is that going to be the
Is you can either find it at
this one?
no, it's like a numeric thing. So you can either go to the Sanity dashboard, manage thing there, and
Here?
it's yeah, there's a project ID. Or you
Okay.
can also find it in your Sanity JSON file in the within the studio. Um,
Sanity
should
JSON
have
within the
both.
studio.
Yeah, should have both of those, project ID and datasets. So both you need both of those.
Got it. Okay, so let's pull this to the side then, and we will pull this to this side, and we'll go to Gatsby config. Let's get. You know what? We're not going to use it, so why don't we drop this? Well, we'll have to back things out, so let's not do that. Let's resolve Gatsby plugin or source Sanity, and then the options were
Project ID and dataset.
and a token, but we're not using this because we set it to public, right?
Yeah, you don't need that.
Got it. So let's take this, and we need this, and this, and I have the video hiding it, but so this is the project ID and the data set. So I just found this in the sanity.json, bringing it over, project ID and data set, and make sure that my JSON is valid. And I think
So there's
we're
one more thing that I think we should do because Sanity uses schemas that are user defined.
mm-hmm.
We try to help you get this slightly more sane schema within Gatsby.
Okay.
So you because sometimes if you don't have a field, like if you don't have a value in a field, like let's say you don't have a description for a blog post or a project, and you try to use that, GraphQL will complain if you haven't defined that. But using our GraphQL API, we can sort of tell Gatsby that those fields exist, so you get a slightly more predictable experience. So what you can do is actually if you go to the terminal and send it from the studio folder. Just do sanity GraphQL deploy. That will deploy a GraphQL schema for that dataset.
Oh, yes, I do want a GraphQL playground.
Yeah. And that will just allow Gatsby, like I said, to be able to introspect types that are available, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
So let's
this is just
around in here a little bit. So we've got the project, title, slug, image, description. Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's pretty much the same that you defined, but there's also like document attributes such as ID and created at and all that kind of stuff that we add by default to document.
I'll just throw this
so you don't really
chat
need,
in case anyone wants to play in the API.
Sure.
Do me a favor and don't. Do we have mutations in here? No. Okay,
Nope.
good deal. I was like, do me a favor, don't add a bunch of data.
I should also warn that this is the GraphQL implementation is in beta right now, so it's there might be dragons hiding behind a corner.
Okay, so now that we implemented that GraphQL API, and does that just means that when the Gatsby source Sanity fires up, it's going to use that instead?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or not instead, but it'll just be able to more reliably figure out which fields are present.
Okay. So if I run yarn develop, I am hoping, if all goes well, uh-oh, we got problems.
Oops.
What is it? What happened?
Did you install the plugin?
I thought I did.
Or?
It's Sharp.
Oh, something about Sharp.
This is my favorite. Okay. We're going to...
But you can just remove it because you don't really need it for this.
All right, so I'm going to get rid of this, and then I have to back a couple things out. So bear with me while I do this. Let's see, we're not using it in here at all. So I just need to get into the pages, and let's drop image. And that should be good. Make sure we don't use it here. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not using the images anywhere so that we don't break it. We can drop this entirely because we're not using it. Make sure that it's not included anywhere else. Let's see. And then we're not querying any images. So that's all good. Let me run that one more time. And then we'll go yarn develop. Come on now. Let's also just remove it from the package.json because we don't need it. And we're not going to use... Or do we use Gatsby image with...
Yeah, I guess image is a good, yeah, that'd be fun.
And
My
maybe...
dog is craving attention.
No, that's good. Well, but now that the dog's on screen, you got to do introductions.
Oh yeah, this is Kokos. She's a miniature schnauzer.
It's always good to get a little dog action on a stream. Like I feel like this is what I'm really lacking. Like I don't have any pets, and I need the ability to just put a pet on screen and be like, okay, you be cute while I solve the rest of these problems.
Yeah, it's a good distraction. You just have to train them so they appear at the right time.
One more time. How are you possibly broken? There's not even anything. Okay, so this is the curse of doing anything live, right? Let's get rid of the yarn lock and the cache, and let's try that.
Would it be easier to see the terminal output in a different terminal?
Well, the problem is more that it's trying to load sharp.
Yeah, I just don't understand where it's why it's trying to load that.
Yeah, so I just blew away the node modules and also our cache to make sure that whatever is something locked up basically, and it's one of the issues with like the versions need to be 100% exact with sharp or else things don't cooperate. So you know, let's hope for the best here. Much better. Okay, so that's I'm going to assume that was probably like a package lock, and I was using yarn and not npm, and so there's all sorts of things that can definitely get confusingly wrong. So let's jump out into the GraphQL schema. Let's dump this, and let's just play. What do we got? I want to look at my Sanity projects. So let's look at Sanity projects, and then let's go edges, node, and what's in here? I'm going to hit Option Space so that I can just look through things. So let's get down to, got a title, I saw a description in there, we've got a slug in there, and oh wait, slug looks like it needs some options.
Yeah, we've reserved some room for the slug type being slightly more complex. We'll add like a history of slugs at some point, so you don't accidentally use a slug that's used somewhere else in the past. But that hasn't been implemented yet.
And let's see, we're gonna do fluid, and so now this API is gonna match the Gatsby, the Sharp API.
Yeah, so you can do there's a fragment for it, I think, but I'm not sure if that works within graphical.
Yeah, fragments don't work in graphical, so I'm just going to grab the source for now. And we can see we've got the title, description, slug, and the image. And if we just grab this image for the fun of it, we can see that it did in fact work. If we were to change this to the source set, for example, we would see there are lots of different images, and like here's a small one so that we can, where did it go? Here. Get a smaller version of that image. So it's really nice. This is it. It's a a great way to build content. Makes it much more accessible to people, especially on like smaller screens and on like lower bandwidth networks. Like if you're using 2G, you don't want to download a megabyte of giant image for a 300 pixel wide screen. So this is an API that I'm really excited to see just supported natively, because this makes life really, really easy versus something like having to download all the images and run image processing on your local machine and so on and so forth. So this is really cool to see. And with that, I think what that means is we can jump in and let's start by building out a portfolio page. And I'm going to do that by making this a little bit bigger. And let's get a query. So, oops. And we're going to pull in GraphQL from Gatsby. We can drop this right in here. And where would I find the Fragment reference? Is that in the plugin?
It should be in the README. Just search
Using
for,
images.
Yeah, there we go.
Fixed and fluid.
Yeah, more down there. There we go.
Okay. And do these support things like Traced Svg and stuff like that, or is that like
it supports the low quality image placeover, the base64 thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't support traced SVGs at the moment because that's not built into our asset pipeline.
Yes. Okay.
So
Perfect.
at some point we might support that, but we'll probably have to download the image and then do that image manipulation on the client. So we
Yeah.
haven't bothered with that yet.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So this is our query, which means that in here we're going to get data, and inside of our data we can do something like this, my portfolio. I'm going to get rid of the rest of this, and we will do, let's see, what's the semantic way to do something like this? It's going to be a list of projects, links to them, so I guess we can just do a list. And we'll start by, let's do data dot all sanity project dot edges dot map, and then that's going to give us a node, and I'm going to rename that to project so that I have a little more clarity on what I'm actually accessing. And so in it we've got the project.title.description.slug. So let's do li set a key of project.slug.current, and inside of it for now let's grab just the project.title. And what this should give us, if I save and refresh the page out here, we get our list of projects. So that's pretty slick right out of the gate. And we can expand this a little bit. Let's do, let's import Gatsby image. Gatsby image. And that means that down here we can do the image. And we'll do fluid equals project.image.edge. asset.fluid. Did I get that right?
I think so, yeah.
Project.image asset fluid. Yeah. All right. And then the alt is going to be the project title. Always got to set your alt tags. And let's set a description down here. And it's not HTML, it's just text, so we can do project.description. And what we will eventually do is link but we're not quite there yet. So we'll just put that in as a placeholder for now. And there we go. We're getting lazy loaded images. We have, it's fluid by default. That is pretty slick. So let's.
Can you inspect the image and just check if, I think it should also be able to, I think it should out of the box now use the WebP version since you're using Chrome.
Let's find out. It is using.
I'm not sure what the right. Yeah.
Format
Well, it's in the
WebP.
source set at least. So yeah.
Yeah. So it is definitely. Let's see. Which one is it using? Current is format WebP. Oh. Yep. We're getting the right one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Sweet.
Cool. Very cool. So that's pretty slick, man. That is a painless setup, especially. Let's see. Just check the comments real quick. No, looks like Newt's got it all under control in there. All right, so let's play for a second with just some really basic styling. So I'm going to do CSS and JS to avoid having to install a styling library. And maybe let's see if I can write Flexbox on memory. Line, is it items or content? Align items.
Items.
Space between. And then down here we can do style. And let's see, flex will be 1 and 45%. And max width will be 45%. And what is it for this? Like, I think we need to set padding of 0. Let's try it. How did I do? CSS by memory.
Oh,
you know, that is not half bad. I will
impressive.
Take that.
Well done. I would have failed so hard at that.
Let's go font size. We'll make this like big but not huge, 24 pixels. Yeah, I'll take that. Let's add a little bit of margin, but otherwise I think we're going to leave that be because this is not a live stream about styling things. So I'm going to take that. That's acceptable. We'll I'm going to add a little bit of margin too. I can't. Okay. This is the last thing I'm adding, I promise. Okay, that's good. I just couldn't handle it. So let's.
Can I show you one other feature before we go into the page building?
Yeah, please do.
Because we have one more really cool feature for the source plugin called watch mode. So it would be kind of cool if we could try to set that up just to showcase how that works. So if you go into the Gatsby config and set, so in the option set overlay drafts to true.
Ooh, secret options.
And yeah, well, they're documented actually, but yeah, just further down from the getting started thing.
Gotcha.
And also set watch mode to true. And we also want to add a token, so we have to go into the management console for a bit.
Okay.
And under, this is kind of weird, I'd go to settings and then API on the left. And then under tokens, you can add a read token. Just give it Gatsby or something. If you then copy this and paste that in as token in the config.
Okay.
Right. If you save that,
Turn it off and on again.
yep.
Okay.
So if you go to the front end now, once it's up and running,
It's up and running. I've got this one here, so let's, no, that's not what I wanted. I want this one. This one
right?
here. Let's go
So
side by
as
side.
if you just, yeah, if you just will keep that there, I can actually start editing my React Markdown. I can't actually see if this.
That is, holy shit. That's amazing. Um, that is really cool. So this is definitely really awesome. I'm just entirely impressed by that, actually.
I can actually just change. Let me just change this to your image
Oh,
to
come
see that
on.
it works for. You know, it works for basically everything in here. And this is using the same like real-time principles that we have in the studio. So it's just a listener it's not using any additional API requests. It just has a listener that's listening for changes to documents and then
Right.
basically updating those within Gatsby when it changes. So
That is
it's really
that
cool.
is real cool. I just realized that I said I was going to stop. I can't. I have to fix one more thing.
Keep going.
Why are you not? Oh shit. Where's my flex wrap? Come on. What? Why? Okay, I've clearly forgotten how this works, so I'm just going to let it go. Yeah, eventually I'll figure out how Flexbox works, but okay, so it just gets better. Like each little feature that you show is like one more amazing thing going on. So let's build some pages then. Let's make these visible here. So let me show. Let's go to Gatsby config or Gatsby node, and we are going to do a couple things here. The first is I'm going to try to remember from memory how all of this works, which is probably going to end poorly for us, but we can give it a shot. So the first thing we want to do is we want to run our query. So we're going to do a result. So this needs to be async. And we're going to await GraphQL. And we also, wait, no, we can do it like this. And so what I need to make this work is actually a little bit simpler than what we needed for the first one. All I actually need is the slug, because the slug is going to generate the pages, and that gives me the ability to then do a query on the page template that we have yet to create. So I'm getting my result, and then I'm going to get projects by parsing this result. So we're going to do results dot all sanity project dot edges dot map, and we'll do node, and we'll just return that node. And so what this little bit of code that I just wrote does is it turns each of our projects into, it's an array now of just the slug and the current. and that's going to make it a little easier to loop over. So then I can do a projects dot for each, because that is not going to return anything. And for this one, we're going to do actions dot create page, and can I do this from memory? Path equals project dot slug dot current. Template we need to create, and context we don't. We want to include the page slug dot current. Okay, so all of that being true, we need to build our template. And so this template that we're going to build is going to live in source, and I just created templates. And inside of templates, we're going to call this project.js. Inside of project.js, we're going to grab React, and we're going to import GraphQL from Gatsby. And we'll do a bunch of other stuff here in a minute, but for the time being, let's see, const query equals GraphQL. And the query that we want for this is going to be a little bit different. So we want to do Sanity project, and we're going to get it by Slug equals, and we'll just hard code one for now. Actually, no, we won't. We'll do this the right way. So it's going to be the slug is going to be a string, and we're going to make sure that the slug equals it. And then down here, we're going to get the title, and we'll start with that. So let's set up a query variable. And the slug that we want is, let's see, I remember this one. So let's prettify that and run it. And that gives us our project. And if I do, let's say, the description, we get it. And then we want the image, and that was asset, and we're going to use the fragment, but we don't have that right now, so I'm just going to grab the source. And then we don't actually need the slug on the page because we've already gotten it in the form of this, and also we're just not doing anything with it. So if we grab this and we drop it in here, the reason that I set the slug in Gatsby nodes context is that anything that we pass in this context object is going to be available to the GraphQL query as a variable. So by setting that, we can say that whenever you create a page, pass along this variable, and then we can grab it and use it here. So let's then export our default, which is going to be a React component. That's going to have some data. And for now, we can just do a kind of a simple setup. Let's do a div. We're going to do an h1. It's going to have the data dot sanity project dot title, and let's do the description too. And I'm taking a couple shortcuts here. Like, I'm not checking to make sure that things are set. Like, if there's a potential that the description could be left empty, and we wouldn't want that to break our layout. So in a production app, I would want to check that. For the time being, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to point to it. We're going to go to source, we're going to go to templates, and we're going to go to project. And now, assuming, let's see, I already made one mistake. So projects, and then we go to our projects for each. Let's see how well I did going from memory. So we can take this, yarn develop. Did I get it on the first try?
I think so.
Nope.
Right to me. Oh, nope.
Let's see. Where did it go? I screwed something up. Cannot read property edges of undefined. So exports create pages. What did I do wrong? All sanity project dot edges Oh, I bet it's result.data. Let me console log this just in case.
Yeah, because there's result.error as well, I think.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. All right. So let's kill that. Try it one more time. And what we should see here is let's see.
Oh, yeah, you
Create
probably have
pages
to use.
data. Created a page with a component that doesn't exist, which means source templates project.
I think it needs to be a absolute path, isn't it?
Oh, that's right. Well, we almost did it in one try. Let's do const path equals require path, and we're going to do a path.resolve and try it again. I did set the absolute path. Gatsby portfolio source templates project.js. Did I screw this up? Templates project.js. Oh.
Oh,
Wait,
it's
no,
under
that's...
pages. No, it's not.
No, that's
Source
right.
templates.
Source templates. Source templates project.js. Sanity Gatsby
What happens if
portfolio.
you click on it? Command click.
Takes me
Oh,
right to
so
it.
it opens. That's weird. Oh, have you actually? I don't think you've exported any defaults. Could that be it? Oh, you have. Okay, so that's not it.
Am I missing something obvious?
Maybe someone in the comments.
Yeah, somebody save us from ourselves. What are we doing wrong here? Let me. Wow, maybe we can just start here. Maybe I broke something. No, you definitely exist. Sanity Gatsby portfolio.
I don't think it's template. I think it's component.
Let's source templates.
No, I mean the key in the. I think it's.
Oh, is this just me not knowing how?
Uh,
It's probably
yeah.
just me not knowing how things work, isn't it?
Or the terminal showed
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Yep. People bailing me out. Okay. Cool. Thank you for teaching me how to use the product that I'm supposed to be teaching you how to use. Sorry, everyone.
I was
Okay,
just doing a presentation on this the other day, so that's why I remembered.
Okay, so we got that. Take this. Try it one more time. This is it. It's gonna work. We created pages.
Yay.
Yeah. All right, let's give this a shot. So we haven't linked to anything yet, but I didn't mean to close that. I want this. Let's try just going to Langsdorff.com, and it does work. So that's cool. So now we can actually make this look like something. And let's do that as quickly as possible. So we're going to import layout from components layout, swap out this for the layout, and that's going to go a long way for us. And then we can get image, Gatsby image, and we can, let's put it right at the top. I think that's going to look nice. Let's go image fluid equals Sanity project, image asset fluid. And then we'll set an alt of the data Sanity title. And we will also set a link. It's going to auto import. Yes, it is. To our home page. And we'll call that back to home. And something broke, and the reason it broke is because I didn't use the fragment. So we didn't send it enough data to actually do anything. So let's do that. There we go. We've got our project. I'm not going to bother styling this because that's not what we're here for, but you can see we've got live editing happening right now, which is awesome. We're able to go back to the home page. We've got new projects that have been added since we started. This is pretty awesome. So let's make these linkable. And to do that, we're just going to go back to this home page. We've already got link imported, so we're just going to use it. And we have the slug already, so we can just grab that out. And in these, we've got our project. So we've got the project slug current going here, which means we can just do things like, or nope, not that. We're going to do this. And out here, we'll add that link. Broke it. What did I break? Broke that. Okay. So now we've got our link, and if I go to the home page, I've got to refresh because I broke things. These are now linkable, right? And so we can do the same thing over here. What's going on? I think I accidentally opened something on the other side. Let's go over here, and let's add that local link. So we've got a link to project slug current, and we can see, let's see project details. That seems like a good one. Here. So now we can see our project details. We can go back. You can see the project details for Sanity. We can go back. So this is pretty slick. Like we're, let's see how far, about an hour and 15 minutes into this, and we've managed to set up a database, add some data to it, build a full portfolio site. We've got real-time editing. We've got image management, lazy loading, all this good stuff. This is pretty awesome. So I think we can probably stop with the Gatsby parts here unless there are any questions. Looks like there are no questions. So now would be a good time. We got about 15 minutes left. If anybody wants to jump in with questions in the chat, please do, and Espen and I can answer those. In the meantime, I'd love to go back and play with some of these more advanced features in the studio. So let's dig in here, and maybe you can show me how to update like the previews, for example. So if I've got my, say I want to open the project. So to do a project, I just do preview, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull this side by side again so we can look at the example. I'm going to open up the post. And so the preview shows me this, and so the select is just like what shows up in there.
Now that's just like which fields you want to select. So there's a couple of like placeholders for title, subtitle, and media. And then if you want to, so if you just need to sort of map a field directly to one of those slots, then you can just use select. But if you want to, like that, and then you can say like subtitle is author.name, for instance.
Okay.
And if you then get a syntax thing going on there. Need a colon up there.
Got it. Yeah. And so we can, well, we'll just skip that for now. Let's just do this. We'll save it. We'll go visit. Where's the local one? Here. And then,
Is the server still running?
is the server still running? That's a great question. It sure isn't.
You'll just have to restart or reload the studio. You can do that right now. It'll just stall until it actually loads.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can use the prepare function that was in the other example to do more like complex stuff, like yeah, build like say date formatting using moment, or I don't know, combine different sources, different fields to create a more like one thing I did for a project is to create sort of the media field. I could make that for recent items. I could make it just a color that was green, and the older it got, the more like opaque the color got. So that's one way of doing it.
Oh,
As you can see now, I have the that's like it does the author below as the subtitle. And if you want the image back, then you'll just have to add media screenshots, or I can't remember the name of the field.
Just image.
Image, yeah.
So we'll add image back. Now we've got our images. Let's play with this prepare function. So that is, so here's preview. So I'm going to go to prepare, selection, and do const. Okay, and let's do Is this going to fail for me if I try to do rest spread?
No, it should work.
I think positive affirmation is an important thing.
Yeah.
So let's. Nope, I broke it. So what did I do wrong? Let's hide this. Okay. Did it give us an error when that went wrong?
Sure.
Subtitle.
Oh, because the selection is the result, so the author will actually be in the subtitle field in this case, because you selected author.name to the field called subtitle.
Author.name to the field called.
Yeah, because that's the original one.
I understand. Let's just switch it back.
So it's just like a shorthand. If you don't need to use the prepare function, then it's just a simple way of doing that.
That's super cool. So I mean, I guess this is more of a toy thing than it is like a super critical thing, at least for me, like in my case. But it's very cool that you have control over things like that, because I can see a lot of cases where that would be really useful.
Yeah, that's just like the most basic of customizations you can do. You can also do things like customize the actual navigation structure. So right now it's very like programmer oriented in the way that the content types are shown in the first pane, and then you select the actual document of that content type in the second pane, and then the document is being edited in the third. But you could actually define these using like a builder syntax that we made.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make more complex, like more workflow things, like show me all the things that are awaiting review, or show me all the stores in my company that's within this state. So you can list all the different states and then make like sub-selections and queries based on that. But
So
there's a lot of.
Is there an easy way, like, how could we show that? So if we wanted to, let's assume that anything that was written by me needs to be reviewed. How would we add that functionality? Like
It's well, it's gonna take probably like 15-20 minutes, I would say, because you need to actually implement this using There's some documentation on it. It's called Structure Builder. So if you go to docs.sanity.io over there, yeah, we
Structure
got
builder.
structure here somewhere.
Structure builder.
Yeah, it's one of our experimental features, but it's working quite nicely now. So yeah, you can see an example there of how to use that. You could also just create a new project, Sanity project, and use one of the other templates, and
Mm-hmm.
one of those should have like a default structure set up. But
Oh, cool. So
this will,
you just create a structure here.
hmm and then you just tell it where you want to implement it, and then yeah, you use this builder syntax that's on your screen right now, and that allows you like very fine grained control. You can say which items should be there. If you want to run a query, you can do that. You can select the list items that should be possible to perform on something. You can even override the action that should be handled when you click on an item. So you
Mm.
can make things like you can actually implement a Bill Gatsby site button for that particular view.
Mm-hmm.
I've used that to make conditional builds on Netlify, for instance, so that I can
Mm-hmm.
build different parts of the site. I can split the site up into different Gatsby sites and just
Mm-hmm.
trigger a specific builds using that. So it allows you to get really like nitty gritty um,
Yeah.
into how you want to build it. But there's like tons of ways to do that. You can even make recursive structures. So yeah, you can build a tree
This is
structure.
uh this is super slick. So yeah, I can see so many different ways to use this. Like if you're in an agency and you want to, give your clients a very like bespoke feeling CMS
Yeah.
without having to actually build a CMS, or
Mm.
if you've got like a content team and you just want to make their process as simple as possible with no bells and whistles. Yeah, there are a lot of ways that I can see this being extraordinarily helpful for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the end goal, is to be able to not say no to any features that a client might request from the
Mm.
CMS, to be able to customize basically every aspect of the studio. And we're working on sort of figuring out the high level abstractions that makes that easy to work with. Because right now we've made the structure is like the first pass at what we think that would look like a high level abstraction of what how you can make a more fine grained control of the navigation structure, and then we'll work from there to add more features down the line.
Mm-hmm. So this is great. I think we're just about out of time. So what would
All
you
right.
recommend as like a next step for people if somebody wants to go do more? I mean, I think the obvious one here is go install Sanity, uh,
Sure.
give a shot to kind of building your first little project and get a feel for how it works. But what's next? Like how can someone go deeper?
So there's we made a quite a cool example using Gatsby and Sanity. If you go to github.org/sanity-io, so the .com, I guess, yeah. Sanity-io, typo there.
Right, I can spell.
There should be one called example company website Gatsby Sanity combo. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that actually
I think I saw
sets
this
up
go through the chat
like
already,
a
but I'm
quite
gonna
a
post it.
cool example that. Sorry.
So I think I saw that get posted in the chat earlier, but I was throwing it in there
Oh, okay.
anyways.
Yeah, that allows you to sort of it gives you basically sort of the same things that we set up now: portfolio, company information, or different authors, all that kind of good stuff. But it also gives you the content model out of the box.
Oops,
So
probably don't want to run that.
that should give you like a kickstart in getting started with couple of other aspects of it, like the real time bits, and as well as the rich text editing. So that's
Very,
super
very cool.
cool.
So it looks like I mean we lucked out with Newt kind of handling the chat for us, and you
Yeah.
did a great job of answering questions. So thank you very much for doing that for us. To everybody who watched, thank you so much for coming in and participating in the chat, for watching the stream. And do you have anything that you want to kind of part with? I posted Espen's Twitter in the chat, so please go follow him. Go check out Sanity. Please reach out to me on Twitter if you've got questions. And I'll post the source code of the portfolio that we built today later, and I'll tweet a link to that sometime today. Any parting words, Espen?
Just give it a try. Let us know what you like and dislike. Sign up at our Slack on slack.sanity.io. Would love to hear any feedback. Just trying to make the product better every day. So yeah, let us know.
Awesome.
And thanks for allowing me to set up a portfolio site with you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for being here. Later when you've got more like there were some other features that we talked about that weren't quite ready to demo yet that I would love to play with. So when those get stable, let's do another one of these.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. See you.